Well, good afternoon. Welcome, everyone. I'm Jeff Woodard. I'm the Director of Marketing and Community Relations for the McLean County Museum of History. A little housekeeping. This live stream is being sponsored by our media partner, WGOT, which is an affiliate of NPR. And because we are live streaming for the Q&A to follow, we would like for you to use the microphone for your questions. The Lunch and Learn is made possible with support from our presenting sponsor, MCK, CPAs, and advisors. Today, we are happy to have visit with us Jay Pratte, who is the director of Miller Park Zoo. Jay will give an overview of the zoo, the history, animals, and what's next for this historic zoo on Route 66, where also local African-American World War I veteran Willis Sterles in the 1950s was the head zookeeper. I don't know if you knew that. Lots of great history here. Jay has been fascinated with zoos and has loved animals since his childhood. Through Jay's work, he hopes to instill that same passion to all the visitors who come to the zoo. Jay has been at the zoo since 2022 and has over 30 years of experience working with zoos and caring for animals, has worked at the Dallas Zoo, Zoo Atlanta, Doorly Zoo and Aquarium in Omaha, Nebraska, and the Utica Zoo in New York. Let's give Jay a warm welcome.
I think I'm on. Excellent. Appreciate you guys having me. Again, I'm Jay. I've been here in the Bloomington Normal area for about 2 years now. I moved here specifically for this position. I was very excited. I'll tell you guys a little bit more about it, but rural Midwestern region is where I was kind of born and raised, so it was very appealing to me. I had read and heard very good things about the community here, and I truly cannot express how positive and how welcoming the whole Bloomington Normal community has been since I've been here. So it has been a wonderful experience. It's been a heck of a ride for me so far, but kind of one of those things that since I got here, whether I was dealing with talking to media, working with my team, community partners such as the museum, I think a lot of people were kind of wondering, why this guy? And we alluded to it a little bit. My background, you know, I was born and raised in a little tiny small town where if you loved animals, all you could do was either be a veterinarian or be a farmer. Neither one of those were really in my wheelhouse or the things that I wanted to do. And I was one of those super smart kids, like school was so easy to me, testing was easy to me. And so there was that kind of pressure to succeed. And, you know, well, I'll probably have to be a doctor or a lawyer. So in my brain, loving animals and the nature, I thought, maybe I can be an environmental lawyer. I had no idea what it was, but it sounded like it was important and the environment would be involved and it would still be something I should do as, you know, a smart kid. And as I was I was actually working on my degree in psychology and zoology, thinking that that would be a good step maybe towards that goal. I got a call from a friend of mine who's like, oh my God, I know you love big cats. And there's this place outside of the city. It's a, you know, smaller roadside facility that has all these cats. You should check it out. And I went and I started learning and working there and volunteering there. And I kind of never ever looked back. I changed my degrees. I changed my school and my focus to really zero in on zoology, behavioral welfare, and behaviors of animals. And it was kind of one of those clouds opened up, choir of angels epiphany moment that I knew that this was what I was supposed to do. But it was an opportunity that I had not known about in my childhood. So I did finish my bachelor's degree. I am technically a zoologist. My minor was behavioral psychology, so I'm kind of analyzing everything, not just in animals, but people too. I do it with everyone. And I have my master's in zoo and aquarium leadership. This was a partnership program through the Association of Zoos and Aquariums, AZA, I'll talk a little bit about, that actually helped guide me specifically with leadership in collection or animal collection management in zoos. The two down the bottom, other training that's helped me is I am critical incident stress management trained. So when there are emergency events, being able to act not only as a first responder, but able to help other facilities and other individuals through those types of crises. And a lot of that training, I've had some similar stuff through FEMA. So I've got a bunch of stuff that kind of all came together over the course of my life, but this was actually the man in the pivotal point. This was Dr. Al Oming that you see up in this one photo here on the screen, and he, in Canada, was every child that grew up in Canada at some point had a visit from Dr. Oming and his cheetahs. He would travel and he would go to on the road, he would come to schools, he would come to malls, and he would do presentations about cheetahs and the importance in Africa, and he always had one that had either been hand-reared or something that was with him. And almost every kid, I swear, must have had from that era this particular experience. I remember having it at our school. And it was formative to me, and this was actually, it was Al Oming's facility. It had been the Alberta Game Farm originally, but it became known as Polar Park when I started working there. Al, of course, is much older at the time that I spent working with him, but this was where I figured out what I was supposed to be doing. And so it was formative, along with my education, to start shaping my career and let me know what I could actually do. I've worked at, and you heard of a bit of a list of some of the accredited zoos that I've worked at. And accreditation is important, and I'll tell you guys a little bit why, but some of the examples, for example, Calgary, I had spent some time there after Al Oming's game farm, the Polar Park, did close to the public. Al had chosen to retire, and he did own it personally. I had moved on. One of the things I had wanted to do, I grew up with, for us, the first movie channel was one that put out various movies from the 80s. I mean, dating myself here. And one that I was fascinated with growing up was called The Beastmaster. And it was Mark Singer, the actor you see on the screen. And he runs around in his loincloth, and it was like Conan, but he talked to his animal friends and saved the princess and the whole thing. And while obviously I wasn't going to be this man as much as I would have loved to, I thought maybe I should make movies with animals. That could be fun. So I did actually try that after Al Oming's place for about a year and a half. And I realized it wasn't for me. That wasn't what I was best at and what I wanted to do. What I wanted to do was work with animals to improve their lives every day, be part of conservation, be part of something bigger. Some of the other things, like I did work at the Calgary Zoo. That was when I started getting back into zoos. And there weren't very many, and there still aren't, Canadian facilities. And so it was very challenging to get positions in this field. And so I started looking into the United States. And the first zoo that actually was willing to take a chance on hiring a Canadian who at that time I did actually was coming under a NAFTA work permit I had to renew every year because I was a zoologist to be able to come down here, and I started work as a carnivore keeper at the Little Rock Zoo here in the United States. Over the years, I was able to find a good immigration attorney who helped me, and so I have my green card, I have my permanent resident card, and a fun fact most people don't know about me is this lawyer was so good that she helped me find a way to apply for this, because they're actually, green cards are backlogged for 3 to 4 years in the federal system. But she found a way, because my specialty has been animal care and training. I've traveled the world teaching about training big cats and bears. I've written papers on it, and they qualify. She qualified that as a specialty. And so there is a specific category for actors, weightlifters, people with unquantifiable skills, and she applied for that, and I had my green card in almost under 2 months. But it comes with its own special title. I am an alien of extraordinary ability. So that is what my green card is, and that's a little bit about who I am. But I am still a proud Canadian citizen, but I am down here working legally in your country, and I've been down here for almost 3 decades. And some of my other background and my loves, when I was I was in Dallas for many years. I love big cats. I love tigers. Growing up, the posters in my room, there was a tiger on one wall. There was Linda Carter as Wonder Woman on the other. Do that with what you will. But I always loved the tigers. And in Dallas, I worked at the ExxonMobil tiger habitat. That's where I learned to train these animals and work with them so closely and learn about them as individuals. But it also provided me some other opportunities. And the acronym on the screen, the acronym's AAZK, stands for the American Association of Zookeepers. And when I was a zookeeper, this was a professional organization that allowed us to communicate with one another. There was a publication that came out with articles written by other zookeepers about our industry, job postings, really exciting things for us. But they also hosted an annual event. It was called Bowlings for Rhinos, and it was coordinated across all these little AAZK chapters across the country. And the top 2 money earners, the ones that earned money that was going to go towards rhino conservation at the Lewa Conservancy down in Kenya, each year were provided a trip to actually go and see where this money was used. And so while I was there one year, after a very impassioned speaker by the late Anna Mertz, who started the Lewa Wildlife Conservancy, I committed myself to fundraising, and I actually earned one of those 2 trips. So this also started my passion for working in conservation projects in the wild. I have actually now been to the Lewa Wildlife Conservancy, not only with that trip that I earned when I was a zookeeper, but through AAZK I am still a recognized tour leader, and I've led 3 or 4 eco-safaris of my own, taking friends, family, and interested folks that have been associated with the zoos down to what has become my favorite place in the whole world. And then I can bring this information back with me, because when you see these animals and you experience them in their native habitats, it lets you understand them better, so we can provide more optimal care for those that are under our care. Some of the other places I've worked, I transferred from the tiger guy to the panda guy. When I took the opportunity and I was invited to the job at Zoo Atlanta as one of the giant panda keepers, there was only 4 facilities in the United States that had them. I thought, gotta try this. What a great idea. Giant pandas, no one gets this chance. And it was a great opportunity. Not only was I there, and I spent a lot of time learning how to take care of just 2 animals, but there's a lot of work with them. We work very closely and directly with the government of China in collaboration of data and care. And this fluffy bear you see in the lower left, that is actually Meilon, who was the first cub that we actually had born, and I was there and the day that Meilon was born. So it was very excited. She actually later went back to Chengdu. And these other photos that you actually see are when I was invited to China, because of my skills as an animal trainer, that they wanted me to come and teach their team. So I spent a month in China at the Chengdu research base of, oh my goodness, wild panda breeding. I'm gonna mess up that name. You can find it online pretty easily and stuff. It's a wonderful facility. It's still there now. We collaborated with. That photo on the upper right is actually me working with a little male that they had named Yong Yong, and that little boy and I were actually on the Animal Planet special Growing Up Giant Panda together, because they happened to be filming during my visit. So this was a lot of fun. In Zoo Atlanta was where I also realized I was learning leadership skills. As I learned to manage animals and manage programs and work with other people, is where I started working. I was transferred over to the leadership role in the Ambassador Animal and Bird Show department. That's actually my little favorite crow. His name was Onyx. And this was also when I actually started my master's program. It was a remote program, but it was partnered through AZA. So now I realized, hey, I'm actually really good at this. I want to do more and impact more people. So to do that, I'm going to need some more skills. And so that was where I started on my leadership role. That progressed through the years. I spent several years in the Omaha's Doorly Zoo and Aquarium, where we did everything. I was the behavioral husbandry manager. We worked with everything from the tiniest fish to the largest mammals, the elephants. That's actually the elephant Claire that I worked with. She was the girl that I spent the most of the time training and working with. But I was responsible for the overall well-being of all of the animals under our care and that of our satellite safari park. Behavior, training, enrichment, cognitive and physical well-being, those all fell under my purview, and I continued again to improve and develop leadership skills. My opportunity in Utica let me practice those. That was a choice that I made to develop and advance my career. And it was from there that I actually then made the move to here for the opportunity that I was provided in Bloomington. On the side, because that's not just enough what I do in my career, there are some other things that contributed to the decision for this city to bring this, random Canadian guy in. I am a founder and currently the president of the Bear Care Group. We are an international nonprofit. We've been around for 15 years now, we started, and we are dedicated to working with bear caregivers around the world. We're utterly nonpartisan. It doesn't matter where you are or who you work for. We're here to help you and provide resources. We provide workshops, we provide resources, we actually provide conferences. We hosted one earlier this year in Oakland, California. And these photos are actually from some of our international ones we've been to. We've been to Vietnam, we've been to Scotland, we've been to Romania, we had a workshop in India. So we've managed to travel the world, but that's also helped me as a leader, because as you learn different cultures, you learn different ways of perceiving how animals are cared for, thought about around the world. It just helps me be better at my job and allows me to bring that information back to my teams to give them a more global perspective. So even in a place as small as Bloomington, here in kind of central rural Illinois, we can still be connected to the greater world and the conservation efforts that are out there. I have been around the world, and I've been lucky enough to travel many, many times. These are all photos that I've taken as I've traveled. Africa, I've been there multiple times, as I said. I love Leo and I support the Conservancy. The other photos are when we actually hosted our conference, and then I spent some time in India. Those little blots in the lower right, those are actually wild sloth bears on one of their reserves we were lucky enough to see. I got to go on a tiger safari while I was there at the Ranthambore National Park. And on my very last week there, I was actually working very closely with Wildlife SOS. You can find them online. They're an absolutely amazing international advocacy and animal welfare group. They do everything. They pull cobras out of people's homes. They take care of the wildlife that ends up on airport runways. They rescue elephants, but they also have a leopard rescue unit. And one evening while I was there with the team, they got a call in the upper right photo. I was able to go on a wild leopard rescue with the Wildlife SOS team. So there's some great experiences, and all of this knowledge and all of these techniques and methodologies that I've been able to bring to the table. I also, if you ever hit the Google, you're going to see a lot of consulting work that I do as a personal consultant outside of my work as an AZA accredited professional and manager and leader. I've been doing this for many years because I believe very strongly, and when I said I got out of the film industry to come back, I care about animals as individuals. I want to take care of their futures. I want to build what we're going to be able to do and take care of their lives and teach other people how to do that. And for all of us that got stuck in the pandemic and we watched the Netflix phenomenon, The Tiger King, that is an example and symptomatic of why we need accreditation, which is professional peer-reviewed standards, to distinguish zoos and aquaria and facilities that are doing a good job in meeting standards from roadside facilities that don't meet those, or from those individuals that are personal gain. And for those of you that watched it, or maybe you saw the more recent one, the series called Chimp Crazy, these are private individuals that have spent their lives exploiting animals at these small little roadside zoos. And they prey upon people that don't know better and just want to take their family or go visit or see animals because they like animals and they care, but they might be provided an opportunity they wouldn't get at an accredited facility. And an example is having a photo taken with a baby tiger cub. For that type of opportunity to happen, that cub's been pulled and removed from its mother, it's been hand-reared, and its entire life has basically been ruined from that point on, so that somebody can have a photo opportunity for 10, 20, 50 bucks. And so I've been working as a consultant, and I was actually involved, well, several others, in Tim Stark with the Wildlife in Need case. These are actually very public cases you can look up. Jeff Lowe, I was also involved in some consultant capacity with Joe Exotic himself, but helping educate people as to why it is important to have the distinction and to understand what these standards are, what truly caring for animals, nature, and wildlife looks like, as opposed to the places that are just after your money and they're doing this for themselves or for their income, not so much for the animals and their well-being. And in this case, I have testified in federal court. I'm a federal expert witness. I'm a professional consultant, and I work really hard in all of these types of cases to ensure not only are we trying to get better lives for those animals, but we are trying to educate people on why it's so important to understand why your local zoo, such as the Miller Park Zoo, works so hard to maintain their accreditation status and meet those professional and international peer-reviewed standards. So this is all stuff that I do on the side, and it's kind of made me that, advocate and proponent for public speaking that I am, but it's given me insight as to also how we don't want to do things. And that's really important to bring to the table. So this zoo, our zoo, it's everything. It's the second smallest AZA accredited zoo, I believe, in North America right now. The smallest, I believe, is the Doorly Zoo up in Illinois. I think they're about 2-something acres, and we're at about 4 acres here in Miller Park. And the zoo is everything. It's not just me as the director who's leading it, but it's growing, it's building on the team and the community. And while on the screen you see some of our favorite animals, the zoo also does oversee, we've rebranded this year, we called it the Putting Zoo. It's that little mini golf course that's right behind the splash pad in Miller Park. We had a great event the other night for the Twilight Mini Golf. Our volunteers, our staff, our veterinary consultants that come in, it takes everybody to be able to make the Miller Park Zoo a success. And up in that middle photo, that's Park and Rec Director Eric Veal and I. We just came back from the AZA, the Association of Zoos and Aquarium Conference in Canada, and our accreditation hearing, where we were awarded our AZA accreditation again, and then we will have that again, and it's on a 5-year cycle. And what that says, that AZA accreditation tells any of you or anybody that would be visiting Bloomington, and they can see that there, that we are meeting some of the highest professional standards for caring for animals, even in our tiny little zoo, and they meet world expectations, because there are many global organizations out there that only for North America recognize AZA as accreditation standards, and our little zoo is working really hard to make sure we meet those. And this is something that helps us stand out from places that might not be as reputable and might not have yours or the animal's best interest in mind. This tells you that we are working very hard to meet and exceed those standards for you, for the animals, our team, the community at all times. And it takes all of us to get Miller Park Zoo to where we are. Now, I am not the history buff in the room. In fact, I'm going to guarantee you probably all know more about the history of Miller Park Zoo than I do. I've got little bits of timelines here, and thanks to our events coordinator, Sylvia Hsu, who is a giant history buff, and some photos and some information that we've actually gleaned through working with you guys. The history, and it started back in 1891 with Big Jim. My understanding is Big Jim was a lion cub that ended up either falling off of or being left behind by a train that was passing through, and ended up being brought for care. And then the zoo and animal care within Miller Park sprung up around that. I am annotating this because, again, I don't have all of the history pieces, but some of the key points that were interesting to me for the progress of an accredited zoo, without going into the full history, is the Katofer Animal Building was constructed. That is our most historic building that we have there. I'm sure you've all seen it at some point. Originally was constructed in 1914. Over the years, different buildings were added on and contributed to the growth of Miller Park Zoo from just the building. There was a grand reopening of the rainforest. That was in addition to Katofer, that is actually still there, and others were added, including sea lions and otters. And we were first AZA accredited in 1978. And while there have been some changes and improvements we've had to make, because the standards, of course, are based on science, and they're always changing and growing, but this most recent accreditation means that we have maintained continuous accreditation since we were first awarded that in 1978. And that's a really big deal for us, and that's something we should all be proud of. We hit our highest attendance record ever in 2016. That was 114,000 people. We are maintaining up and getting up and above that. And working with the Miller Park Zoological Society, we maintain about over 2,000 memberships annually through our partnership with the society as well. And then our most recent habitats that we opened, that I was here for, South America, we opened up our South America habitats in last spring in 2023, and they have been incredibly popular. So this is clearly not the entire history of Miller Park Zoo, but these are some of the highlights that illustrate the changes that are critically important. And when you see that photo in the lower right, that actually, well, it cut it off, did come courtesy of the McLean County Museum of History here. You see the transition and the growth. This was historic bear pits, bear caging, carnivore caging, and you should never see this in an AZA accredited zoo or a good reputable zoo anymore. We develop and we evolve into open habitats and ways where the animals can express species typical and natural behaviors, and you can enjoy them without cages and bars, and the animals get to experience the life as best we can provide for them. And that's where we have been heading to over all of this time. And it is very important to remember that we do this under government observation. We are required as a zoo to maintain an exhibitor's license through the United States Department of Agriculture. USDA and APHIS have the AWA, or the Animal Welfare Act. We're required to meet those minimum standards, and we are inspected now every 3 years and maintain a certificate. Now, those are minimum standards for care. So some of these places that I've told you about that have routine citations and problems, they don't meet minimum standards of care. This is basically the government saying, you have to do this or else. We are well above that. In our last 2 inspections that we've had, and even most recently our recertification, we had clean inspections. We had no items to work on, and we were actually complimented on our teamwork and our growth by our USDA inspector. So we're very proud of that. And that then ties right into the Association of Zoos and Aquariums. That's AZA. And every 5 years, we invite in a team of professional colleagues who come in and they discuss with us after observing our zoo. And it's not just animals, it's everything. It's aesthetics, it's our budget, it's how we manage that. It's what is our long-term planning? How are our staff managed? What are our education programs? They look at everything, not only our animal care. And all of those standards, and I can tell you, it ends up being a few hundred pages when that application is submitted, and then the rigorous inspection this team performs. We go, like Eric and I did to our hearing, and they let us know how we did. Last year, my first year here, there were a lot of improvements that needed to be made. There were some deferred maintenance issues. There were policies that had to be updated and things that hadn't been improved. But I spent my first year really working on that. And then after our first inspection, we received provisional accreditation. We stayed accredited, but we had to fix a number of things. And there were a number of things. And through the support of the society, the city, the Park and Rec Department, and our whole team, we were committed to fixing those. And we were then awarded our accreditation this year because of those changes and because of the effort that we actually made. And that's through the support of the community and the understanding why that this is so important. And so we continue with updates. I always have a punch list, and I'm always going to have things that I'm still trying to change and improve there for the animals and for the staff, even outside of these guidelines. But these help shape where we need to go and what the expectations are. And anybody at any time can look up and see what those regulations and those standards are, so you can understand the difference between minimum and meeting and exceeding professional international standards. So I talked a little bit, this is just one of the examples of some of the improvements, but the new South American habitat that we ended up building, we were able to relocate our Galapagos tortoises from their previous smaller habitat to their new location with the new building. Up on the right, that's the Chilean pudu. We have 2 of them now. We have Puddles and Nico. They are the world's smallest species of deer from South America. And one of our most popular habitats now is, of course, our giant anteaters. We have Chile is our female, and we have Arnaud, who is named after, right now, arguably the world's most famous and recognized South American giant anteater and giant armadillo researcher in South America. And Chile and Arnaud live together in South America. Nico and Puddles are together in South America, and it's a great immersive habitat. And it's an example where there are no bars, there's open habitats. You can see the effort the staff are putting into providing natural habitats, the ability to express behaviors. You'll see enrichment, you'll see logs, you'll see natural plants, and this is where we want to be able to go. And while we do it on a little bit smaller scale here, because we have 4 acres in the middle of Miller Park, we're still going to provide as much optimal care as we can, and we're going to make those decisions accordingly. It's been a great habitat. But this ties us in, because again, when I was talking to you about my background and all the big picture things, we hadn't been participating quite as much in international conservation programs. It hadn't been previously a focus. And so both because it's an AZA accreditation requirement and because it's our responsibility as animal caregivers and educators and stewards that you're entrusting us to care for the animals for here in your community to then remind and teach everybody why it's so important and how we're connected to the rest of the world. It's pretty easy to forget when we're in the middle of the plains in southern Alberta where I was born or central Illinois here that there's so much else out there. And when we brought in our giant anteaters, I had done a lot of research, and the ICAS, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that, but they are based out of South America. We've started partnering and working with them and support them both financially and through education and other measures where we can. You can find all of their information online and through our social media. We're doing and sharing some posts. But when we chose to allocate some of our financial resources towards supporting external in situ conservation projects, when we chose them, they have an Anteaters and Highways project that we felt was very near and dear to us and we could connect people to, because we have anteaters now and we have highways. And one of the biggest impacts to native populations of giant anteaters in South America is when they actually have to cross from one space of habitat to another, and all these highways and all of the traffic. And this is around the world, but in particular with giant anteaters in South America, there are a lot of losses of animal life to collisions, to impact, and to damage. And so they are trying to provide corridors, do research on how these animals use space so we can better understand how to protect them. And while our team has not yet gone down there to spend time, last year our contribution was actually able to purchase a radio collar, or allow them to have one, and they actually put it on. It's a young female and her name is Jane, that they identified. And what you're actually seeing in the lower left, these are plot maps for Jane's range. Now at the top, that yellow line, that's actually a highway. She's living in a plantation right now. She's very close to a highway. They monitor her very closely. She is still a wild anteater, but with her collar, you can actually see in that little brief video on the right, they check on her regularly, they can track her. But now this lets us tell people, you know, how we're contributing to conservation in the wild. We're not only talking about Chili and Arnaud here in Miller Park, we're talking about Jane, who lives down in South America in the habitat, and we all want her to succeed and thrive. And so we now get regular updates from the research team that we can share with people on social media, through the news. We're going to continue to do this, and this is how, like, one example. We have several other programs, but this is the most recent one that we've joined. It's the one that I think has the greatest impact, and it really hopefully can connect people to what we're doing here with our South America and our giant anteater habitats and the importance of what is actually going on in the wild. Our programs, again, education is core to everything we do. And we encompass all age groups. Some of our examples, and these are just a few, are animal crackers. We bring these guys in and they fill up like nobody's business. And 3 to 5 year olds and their families come in, and these children begin to learn and they get experiences that they're gonna hopefully keep with them forever. We've got a junior zookeeper program where we have teenagers that come in, and 4 and 5 years they learn different stages about animals, animal care. It's actually been recognized by AZA. I think the program's been going for over 50 years now, and several of our staff and our team members were originally junior zookeepers here at Miller Park Zoo. Our most recent staff change, zookeeper Rose Johnson was promoted to our animal care manager role, and she has been a junior zookeeper. Eric Veal, the Director of Parks Recreation, was a junior zookeeper so many years ago as well. It's amazing the connections that's had in the community, and we provide all sorts of different education opportunities and camps. And we even have, once a month, we have a senior walkthrough program where we invite our friends from the senior community to come in, walk through the zoo. It's curated. We have somebody come with them. We show them behind the scenes spaces. We talk to them about the animals and answer questions, and that continues to grow and increase in popularity. So we want to continue to make sure we're providing education opportunities from the zoo for all of the age groups that we have here in the community. We try to have fun. We want the zoo to be a fun place to go. We work very closely, again, with the city, Parks and Rec, and we have our event and volunteer coordinator, and we try to come up with creative ideas and fun ways to engage the community. We talked about the other night, the Halloween at Twilight Mini Golf had 124 people. It doesn't sound like a lot of people till you cram them and their families all into a mini golf course for 2 hours. Then it's suddenly a lot of people. but it was a lot of fun and people had a very good time. And we do events for Halloween. We have, of course, every year we sell out and people come for the wild lights. That's when we set up and fill the whole zoo full of Christmas lights and everybody comes through with their families. It's a great amount of fun. And this year, for the first time with the Dia de las Monarcas, we are doing something where Sylvia, our event coordinator, is trying to connect us to our local Hispanic community. We want them to come in and participate in something that has a piece of their history and involve the community in something that then ties directly in, because monarchs figure very highly into the culture surrounding these, the events in this time of the year. And we participate in monarch butterfly conservation every year at the zoo as well. So it lets us not only continue educating conservation, but it lets us connect to the community as well and invite those members in to help us learn more about them and share that with everybody. So we're very excited about that. We mentioned the Miller Park Zoological Society. They are our primary fundraising arm for new projects. They have supported us, and every year right now we have the annual Stampede event. We have the Brews at the Zoo event, both of which have sold out. And then we actually, the day I got back from AZA and 2 weeks traveling in Canada and seeing friends and family, we had our annual Zoo Do fundraiser. And it was a lot of fun. It was a great time, hosted by the Society. It also sold out. The theme this year was Ignite the Night. There were fire dancers, there was fire, there was grass skirts. There were luckily no injuries as a result of the combination of the two. But we try to make sure that people can come and have a really good time and enjoy themselves. And one of the bonuses this year, we were able to reopen the inside viewing on the lower left there. That's the inside of the Coteau for Animal building. That historic indoor space we had to close for about 4 years, because with the onset of COVID and the pandemic, we found that the species, the big cats and the primates in their zoos, found that those animals were incredibly susceptible to the COVID virus. We, in fact, actually lost one of our snow leopards to it. And so for the past 4 years, we ensured that we got vaccines for the animals. We spent, through the Society's assistance and the city's support, $40,000 to install improved ventilation. There's some fans you can see in there, and we got the whole building cleaned up and reset. And this was one of the pieces, being left-brained like I am, I think about the logical reasons to do things. Well, let's get the building open. People can have a good time. They can come see these animals. What I didn't anticipate, and the reason I'm sure many of you are here, is the nostalgia piece. I wasn't born and raised here. Like, I came in and I wanted to do it for the right reasons, for the guests, the community, and the animals. But so many people that have come since we have reopened this, we did it on the Society Members Night, and we've been able to have other events there. Everybody talks about how they grew up there. They got to bring their children and their grandchildren into that space, and it was formative, and that's some of their strongest memories for Miller Park Zoo. So I did it without even knowing it, and I'm glad that I was able to, because that's sometimes history and nostalgia have not always been my strong suit, but having and inviting in members of the community that help us understand that these decisions can have a big lasting impact, make all the difference in the world, and it has done so. And so we thank the Society for the support, but this is also the community. This is all of you that come and support us through these, that tell us we're doing a great job. We want you to have a good time while you're there, and that you recognize the hard work we've put into it. And we're going to continue to grow. Some examples of what's coming up: we're going to continue to work on the existing campus. This morning was a lot, even at the zoo. We actually had 2 separate projects going in to improve the wallaby walkthrough yard. We'd had a tree come down, we had to remove the stump. We're building a new heated shelter out there for those little guys to help them through the winter a little bit better. Both of those projects were happening this morning. And we're going to continue on meeting and improving our ability to exceed AZA accreditation standards. This is actually an older version of the master plan. We are actually going to engage through Parks and Recreation with city support. We will find some outside consultants, and it was actually approved for our budget for this fiscal year, and we are going to create a new master plan. It's going to take us a year or 2 to do so. We'll get the community involved, but we want to start figuring out what is the future going to look like, because it can't be based on me. Well, I've done a lot, and I'm trying to bring a lot to the table. It's not just about me and my vision. That needs to coincide with the team, the city, the park, and all of you for what is the future of Miller Park going to look like and why it's important to your community. And this is actually also coinciding with a Miller Park master plan, which is going to be occurring at the same time that the city has also committed to and invested in. So it's a really great time. A busy time, but a great time. And then we're going to continue to improve the existing habitats that we have and look at what can we do in the future so that you guys have a great time when you come to the zoo, and what can be new. And some examples, we actually did get these girls in. We have 2 new southern ground hornbills named Morticia and Wednesday. Right now they share, if you haven't seen them on social media, the DeBraza monkey habitat. We rotate them through at the moment. So Morticia and Wednesday are out on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. They're hysterical. I love them a lot. They're very interactive. My goal, maybe in South America, do we add capybara? I didn't do this on purpose with all the news. Everybody was, I'm sure, seen about the capybara over in the UK that escaped and evaded capture for several days, and it's now triggered a whole capybara craze on social media and the internet across the world. I still like them. They're South American. We may try to add them in. And actually now the Society is working on helping us decide how we can create a new habitat within our existing rainforest and maybe bring in a sloth. We had a sloth before, and everybody, I don't know what they are. People love sloths. Can't even begin to tell you why. One of the slowest moving animals out there. I don't get it, but people love them. So we're going to look at what can we do to meet again some of those community needs. And again, and thanks to the Society, because they are also a part of the history of the zoo. A lot of this is done through city, through Park and Rec community support, but in our partnership with the Society, they have supported us through this process with AZA. When we received that significant list of things we had to work on for our provisional accreditation, they immediately stepped up with a $100,000 gift to help us with those programs. That was a really big deal to us because those projects had not been entered into the budget because we hadn't had an inspection team come in. Carousel is missing right now, and when you want history, that is a piece of history. And once again, I decided from a left-brained aesthetic point of view, it's a little faded and old. We need to fix this. And so we started working on that, and we found a company, and last year the Society, all of their fundraising events were put towards the Carousel Restoration Project. Actually a company now called Carousel Relics. They came, they dismantled it, they took it all away, but the support from the community was very different. The zoo has been very supported, but people have so many memories tied specifically to this carousel that people that don't normally support the zoo contributed to this cause because they are attached to, and again, nostalgia, not my strong suit. And so we're really hoping when this comes back that it's going to be an even bigger deal for the community. It's going to be beautiful, it's going to be restored, it's going to look professional, it's still going to be fun, but the community has had a hand in this, and I'm very excited about that piece of it as well. And they're continuing to help us as we move forward through, again, all of these different fundraisers we talk about that you can always be part of whenever you want. But this is our 24 project, is that sloth habitat in the rainforest. We just had our first event, which was Zoodoo. That was that sold out event where they tried to light everything on fire, but we really didn't. Fire dancers were a lot of fun. 2025, the Stampede Run, and the Brews at the Zoo event will contribute to that cause as well. So this is how they support us with some of these changes that we can make throughout the zoo. So we are very thankful to the Society as well. That's kind of my run through. Aside from wishing that and hoping that you guys will all come and pay us a visit sometime in the near future, I am here if any of you have any questions.
Thank you, Jay. They say sometimes be careful of what you ask for. That was amazing. It was incredible. I had no idea. Do we have any questions from the... Okay, so it's...
And what's playing in the background, this is a little bit of my personal history. One of my favorite animals of all time. This is in a behind-the-scenes area and showing a bit of what I do. This is when I was one of the behavior manager, and I worked very closely. This was a lion named Mr. Big. He had a history of being fairly aggressive with keepers and not caring for people around, and after several years of working with him very closely, this is Mr. Big participating in voluntary medical care. We're actually going to be able to get at his tail. We can do voluntary blood pressures, which is what we'll see here, voluntary blood draw. But aside from all these cool medical procedures, the best part of this was understanding Mr. Big. And he was had fears and associations that he'd learned from people that weren't really great. And all of these other people in the room, when you saw those vets that were standing there, and including our vet tech, Joan, who's helping me, him learning that it was okay and safe for those people to be there was such a critical part of his growth so that we could actually achieve these goals. Because now not only can we monitor his health, like all cats, big cats are prone to renal disease and renal failure. This allows us to monitor his health, his well-being, and he's choosing to participate as I am actually giving him the cues and asking him to participate and giving him meat rewards, which is important to him. And so this is just, I thought, a fun little background to have back there. It's something not everybody gets to see, but this is the hard work that we do in some of the science of our career.
Are there any questions from the audience? I have one. And first of all, congratulations on AZA accreditation. I know we go through accreditation here at the museum. It's very rigorous. And,
Yes.
And this is a 5-year for you, a
Yes.
5-year cycle?
Because of the provisional, that extra year, we will now have 4 years before our next one, but it is putting us back onto that 5-year cycle, which now we'll stay on top of.
Okay. I have another question for you. I know you like all animals, but is there a particular animal, rhino, tiger, or some particular animal that you feel the most comfortable working with?
Surprisingly, it is big cats. There is something about them. Again, I loved them since I was a little kid. And as I grew to work with them, I have an affinity to working with them. And there are a lot of animals. I'll take care of them and I love, but I don't love them the same way. I do not trust a parrot as far as I can get them to fly away from me. There's just personalities, and you'll find a lot of caregivers and zookeepers really do excel because of their ability to understand or bond with or care about particular aspects of care. But for me, it was big cats, but it evolved into love my pandas, but it changed. A crow, an octopus, a monitor lizard, and right now, my 2 favorite animals in our entire zoo are our mulefoot hogs, Rupert and Rain, because they are clever, funny, and make me laugh every single day.
Okay, all right. Thank you. I got another question for you. Do you have any pets at home?
Maybe.
Maybe?
When
was the last time you were at home?
On top of everything you heard here, I am also very active in dog and cat rescue.
Okay.
I am vice president of Mid-America Rottweiler Rescue and still work very closely with others. I specialize in Rottweilers and French Bulldogs, so I may have some larger number and mixture and variation therein of fosters and otherwise, including one that when I showed you the photos of when I actually was in India, I did actually rescue a dog when I was in India from the top of the temple in the Ranthambore National Park, and a year later was able to bring Gowrie home and introduce her to our family.
Okay, okay. Yeah, you actually answered one of my other questions about the carousel too, because I was wondering about that. That's going to be exciting.
We
So
are
thanks for doing that.
very much looking forward to it, and we're recreating that spot. All the old fencing is coming down, and the society has been integral in figuring out how we're going to make that space more accessible, really modernize it, and bring that back with the impact we hope it has on the community.
All right, thank you, Jay. Great. Oh, we got a question over here. Okay, we're moving. I'll be right with you.
Hi, I came today because I met one of your helpers, one of your staff, JD. He goes to our church.
Yes.
And he was telling me all about his fun work at the zoo.
JD is a very valued member of our team. He's been with the zoo much longer than me. He is part of our grounds and our custodial. He is our guest services team. And JD works through his personal challenges with his family and that, but he loves the zoo. He helps us care for actually the animal habitats. JD is the one that will go in, not when the animals are out there, but in the hornbill and the monkey enclosure, and he helps trim things down. He gets it cleaned up. He makes sure the zoo is ready for special events. And JD loves to work with people. He loves to work with our staff. We have him all over the place, and he's a valued member of their team, and it is clear how much he loves the zoo.
How many staff members do you have? And could you break down your budget for us between public funds and private giving?
So that's a challenging one, the budget we're going into the season, so I'll do my best. Right now we have approximately, for full-time staff, I think we're at about 12 to 15. We have many seasonal staff. As a city department, as a division of Parks and Recreation, we have seasonal zookeepers, seasonal guest services teams, and seasonal educators. Many of them have been with us for many years. They don't just kind of come and go, but they're in a seasonal status as we try to evolve those positions at the zoo and determine where we need those full-time positions and roles. This past year, we were actually awarded by the city. We were the only Park and Rec division that were given 2 new brand new full-time positions. One was a new full-time zookeeper, and the other one was actually our veterinary technician. And so those were a great step forward for us, and we're going to continue with that. Our budget right now, and this is where like budgeting is not my strong skill either, but I know we have a city budget that we work through, but a lot of the fundraising piece comes actually in directly through the society. And to give you an example, they have a target right now, I believe, for new capital projects and new projects of about $140,000 to $150,000 is generally their target for, I know that was the target for the carousel. I think it was about 100 to 120 for the rainforest project. And then through that, those efforts come back into the zoo. They also, through their the membership program, also contribute directly into a revenue stream and a revenue line in our city budget for a contribution each year as well. And I apologize, I don't have those numbers off the top of my head. Like the left brain doesn't extend to numbers, but I can find those for you. And because again, they're city budgeting, anybody that does have questions about those, we can get those answers for you at the drop of a hat. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you still have flamingos?
We do. They are the first exhibit and habitat that you see when you walk in, and they are still one of our most popular.
Okay.
Which is good because I see there's one painted on the wall downstairs now.
Yes. In our new mural, our Route 66 mural.
Yep. Which as soon as I walked in, I actually took a picture of that, and in our zoo-wide chat, I actually sent those pictures out about the amazing mural that we didn't know was here. So.
Well, thank you. And it is Thursday, so I don't know about you guys, but I'm headed over to the zoo because I need some hornbills in my life. I don't know about you.
I'm telling you, Thursday's the day. It's a beautiful day, and if you want to see Morticia and Wednesday in action, boy, today is the day to do it.
Yeah, I'm there. Well, thanks again.
Absolutely.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
And please join us on the 18th. We'll be hosting Dr. Andrew Hartman, and he's going to break down and dissect if it's even possible, the upcoming elections. Thank you. Have a good day.